The golden light of the early morning sun painted the skyline of Westbridge, a quiet, affluent suburb just outside Chicago. The air was crisp, and the scent of freshly cut grass lingered as birds chirped their morning songs. This was always Mia Carter's favorite time of day. Dressed in sleek black athletic wear, her wireless earbuds nestled snugly in her ears, Mia jogged along the paved path winding through the tree-lined park. This routine was her escape, a moment of clarity, before she stepped into the chaotic world of law enforcement. As the newly appointed head of internal affairs for the Illinois State Police, Mia had made it her mission to root out corruption within the force. It was a challenging role, one that often made her more enemies than friends, but she had never been one to back down from a fight. As she jogged, she let the rhythmic pounding of her feet against the pavement and the steady beat of her breath drown out the worries of the day ahead. That was until the low hum of an approaching car disrupted her peace. A police cruiser was creeping along the side of the jogging path, its headlights flashing ominously despite the clear morning. Officer Daniel Harlow gripped the steering wheel tightly, his gaze locked on Mia with barely concealed suspicion. Daniel had been with the Westbridge Police Department for over a decade. Raised by a father who was once a highly ranked officer, he had been taught from a young age that authority was power, and power was meant to be wielded. He prided himself on maintaining the so-called order in the neighborhood, an order that, in his mind, didn't include a black woman jogging in a predominantly white community. As Mia jogged past, Daniel's prejudices filled in the blanks. He didn't see a professional woman out for a morning run. He saw an intruder, a threat. Without hesitation, he flipped on his sirens and cut his car in front of her path, forcing her to stop abruptly. Mia's brows furrowed as she pulled out an earbud, already sensing where this was going. She had encountered officers like him before, men who let their badge justify their biases. "Morning, officer," she greeted, keeping her tone even. "Is there a problem?" Daniel stepped out of his patrol car, his posture rigid with authority. "We got a call about a suspicious person matching your description," he said, his voice laced with accusation. "Trespassing, possibly involved in theft." Mia exhaled slowly, willing herself to stay calm. "I live here," she said, motioning down the street. "I jog this path every morning." Daniel folded his arms across his chest, eyeing her up and down. "Got any ID on you?" "I didn't think I'd need one to go for a run," Mia replied, her patience thinning. Daniel smirked. "Convenient. So no proof you live here? That's not a good look." By now, a small group of morning walkers had gathered, their phones out, recording the interaction. Mia took a deep breath, keeping her voice firm but composed. "Officer, this is a mistake. I suggest you rethink how you're handling this." Daniel scoffed, mistaking her warning for defiance. "Is that a threat?" Without another word, he grabbed her arm, twisting it behind her back. A gasp rippled through the onlookers as he forced her into handcuffs. Mia winced, but didn't resist. She had been in law enforcement long enough to know how to pick her battles. "This is harassment," a bystander shouted. "Let her go, man." "She didn't do anything," another chimed in. Daniel tightened the cuffs unnecessarily before shoving her toward the back seat of his patrol car. "You had your chance to cooperate," he muttered. Mia, still composed, met his eyes through the rearview mirror as he drove. "You're going to regret this by the end of the day." Back at the precinct, Daniel swaggered in, announcing his arrest. "Trespassing and resisting arrest," he said smugly, slamming paperwork onto the desk. He barely had time to enjoy his moment before the precinct doors burst open. Captain Rebecca Hayes stormed in, her sharp gaze locked onto Daniel. In one hand, she held a tablet displaying a viral video, his video. The footage of him arresting Mia had exploded online within minutes, capturing every racial bias, every unnecessary aggression, every poor decision. "Officer Harlow," she seethed, "do you even know who this is?" Daniel hesitated, suddenly feeling a pit form in his stomach. "This," she continued, her voice dripping with anger, "is Mia Carter, head of internal affairs for the Illinois State Police. Your boss's boss." The color drained from Daniel's face. He turned to Mia, who now wore a knowing smile. "I tried to warn you," she said calmly. Captain Hayes folded her arms. "Congratulations, Harlow. You've just made the biggest mistake of your career." Within minutes, Daniel's record was pulled. A disturbing pattern of racial profiling, excessive force, and fabricated reports came to light. Every infraction he had ever swept under the rug was now under a glaring spotlight. "You're officially stripped of your badge and authority," Captain Hayes declared. "Suspended without pay, pending further charges." Mia stepped forward, adjusting her sleeves where the handcuffs had chafed her wrists. "I want an immediate review of every case he's ever handled. Every stop, every complaint. We will not let this slide." As Daniel stood there, his world crumbling, the video continued to spread across social media. News outlets picked up the story. The public erupted in outrage. Calls for police accountability intensified, and Mia became the face of the movement. Months later, Mia stood before a national audience, receiving an award for her efforts in police reform. Meanwhile, Daniel, once the arrogant enforcer of order, now worked as a parking lot attendant, his career in shambles, his fall from power a lesson to all who believed the badge was above the law. Justice had been served, and Mia's story became a beacon of hope for real change.